Hi, everybody. Welcome to another session of Yap versus Yap. Welcome to the Film Yap. My name is Omar Brito. I'm a occasional contributor to the Film Yap, and today I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Gian Spadone. How are you doing, John?
Hey, doing good, Omar. Yeah, and I am a first-time reviewer, so I'm looking forward to this, Omar.
I'm happy that you're joining me. I'm happy that you're joining me because today's movie that we're just going to discuss is The Kingsman. And what a very British movie. So I thought I thought it would be appropriate to have you along to
Absolutely
to provide subtitles for me. Okay. So for those who don't know, The Kingsman is the third film in the Kingsman franchise, right? Series, right? It's a directed by Matthew Vaughn from a series of comic books called The Secret Service, right? Which was created by Mark Miller and Dave Gibbons, right? The huge icons in the comic book world, both men, right? The third series, I mean, well, we just saw it last night. What are your first impressions? What do you think about it, John?
So, it's a typical, the second half of the movie is a typical Matthew Vaughn movie. You know, it's got very much the stylized violence, and I enjoyed that. But the first part of the movie, obviously with it being set just before and during World War I, it's a really complicated political time.
Yes.
And it does take some time to get going because it has to really explain to the viewer all about the politics between the British Empire, the German Empire, the Russian Empire. So, from a historical context, very complicated, but I think Vaughn did a really good job in trying to explain that at a very high level. It's just unfortunate that it really took up the first, quarter of the movie to get through that before the action, and you really go into a Kingsman movie.
Yeah, you know what? Let me go back and, like you said it's very complicated film. Let me try to summarize it, and you chime in if I get it wrong. So
absolutely,
this is an origin story. So if you're a fan of the series, you're not going to see Eggsy. You're not going to see, obviously you can't see Colin Firth, but this is an origin story of the Kingsman Agency, starring Ray Fiennes. Basically every British actor you can think of. I mean, Charles Dance, Matthew Good,
Rhys Ifans.
Rhys Evans. I don't know the character, the actor who played Conrad. I've not heard of Harris Dickinson, right? He's a tall, strapping lad, very British, very stiff upper lip. So I basically the story is as an origin story, there, like you said, it does take a while to get to where it needs to go. Basically, there are a cabal of like a secret shadow organization conspiring to manipulate world events around World War I, right? They're trying to get, and this is, like you said, it's a history lesson because I had to do some research because I didn't realize the history between England and Russia, right? I didn't understand.
Right.
So this organization is conspiring to remove Russia from the equation to allow Germany to invade England.
Correct.
Right. So yeah, do people know that the history between England and Russia was amicable at a certain point in history? I didn't know that.
It's a surprise that the royal family is a German royal family, and when Tom Hollander, who plays George V, he plays Kaiser Wilhelm and Tsar Nicholas II. When Tom Hollander talks about how he's been advised to change their surname to Windsor, that's actually true. You know, that's when they changed their surname to Windsor, because, you know, we eventually were at war with Germany. So you're right, very complex time in history. But I think they explained it well. It's just the audience is going to they've got to get through that to get to the actual Kingsman movie that they're expecting.
Right. So, yes. So that's the main. That is with that story, with the shadow organization trying to manipulate world events, right, and create an England, a decimated England. We have that going on. At the same time, then we have the Ray Fiennes character, who's the Duke of Oxford. He's really entrenched with British politics. He's a man who knows everyone. And then there's the story of his son, who is trying to prove himself, maybe get out of the shadow of his father and prove himself through military exploits. He wants to be a soldier. He wants to. What's the theme of the movie? It is very sweet to die for your country, right? They keep repeating how wonderful. That's like the privilege to die for your country. And this is what Conrad Oxford wants to do, to prove that he is somebody more than just a nobleman, a gentleman. And those are the two stories that are going on, that taking place at the same time, right?
Right. For me, it's very much a story about the naivety of youth, the idealism of youth, versus the cynicism and the realism of the older generation. You know, the character that Ray Fiennes plays is a lot of Oxford. He's been in wars. You know, he receives the Victoria Cross, and he's done with killing. So he was, you know, he's seeing in his son himself, you know, 35 years previously. And, you know, the scene where it goes into World War I was really surprised how heartfelt and tender Vaughan actually portrayed World War I, because he's very famous for, you know, outlandish violence. Remember in the first Kingsman movie, the classic church scene. So he's really good at doing that, and I was interested to see how he would cope with World War I. But you know, to use a cliche, there was a lot of heart there. It was quite emotional in seeing the pure horror of World War I.
Absolutely. No, that I do appreciate Matthew Vaughn's movies. They're like hyperkinetic. The action is at times comic book action, right?
Right. He's the perfect director for a comic book. He really is.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, however, in this movie, though, I felt like I was having like a 7-course meal, which everything was beautiful, and when they brought out the food, it was gorgeous. But when I was eating it, it had no flavor, no taste. You get bits and pieces,
right,
of some of the action and the energy from the first two films. You know, there are scenes I could watch a whole movie on, obviously on the Mad Monk.
Rasputin.
I could watch a whole movie on that character alone. He was fantastic, but there were a lot of moments where nothing happened. It's very dull. And so if you go into this movie expecting a continuation of the adventures of the Kingsmen and of the banter between Colin Firth and Taron Egerton, if you're expecting that, you're gonna be disappointed. It's a different kind of movie. It's a little bit depressing. Right, like you said, you have a character who has experienced the horrors of war, and you have another character who is dying to experience the horrors of war. And so, yeah, this is a very like a grown-up, maybe more grown-up version of the Kingsmen than people are used to. Like I said, you referenced the church scene in the first movie, and that's what most people think about. They think about, you know, Colin Firth laying waste to a whole church, and it's funny and it's kind of cool and it's sexy. I didn't get that from this movie. This movie was much more grounded in reality, and I think some of that was hindered by the time and place that it took place. You don't really get a lot of fun, cool gadgets, you know, in 1904. You know, so it was a much more of a, and I don't, you know, I don't know how that's going to play with the audience who wants the eggsy protagonist who is kind of a fun jerk, cool, kind of cool. You know, for me, to sum it up in my my take of this movie, maybe I have to watch it again. You know, it felt, for a short movie, it felt long to me. It took a long time to get to where I got excited about what I was seeing. For the history buffs, they would probably appreciate you know, the history lesson that was Matthew Vaughn showed. But for me, there's a scene that I can't stop thinking about, where the most interesting character says to another character, "Could you change seats? You're boring me." And you know, I've known you for a long time, and at one point during the movie, I looked at you to make sure you were awake, because it just seemed like it very slow sometimes, and I don't know if it's going to have the same impact as the previous two. Do you have any differing opinions of that, or do you feel the same?
No, you're absolutely right, Omar. I think, you know, people who are expecting you to book Kingsman movie are going to be a little bit disappointed. You know, you saw the scene with Rasputin, and that was one of the best scenes in the movie. That whole scene where they're having the dinner and then they go into the action scene without spoiling it. It was spot on. It really was. It was fantastic. So yeah, and for me, that was the highlight of the movie. And you know, I could have watched Rhys Evans doing Rasputin. I could have watched a whole movie on Rasputin. Fantastic character, very well acted. But yeah, you're right. But it does, you know, as we go through the movie, the action does pick up, and then it goes into the more traditional Kingsman, Matthew Vaughn, you know, very sexy violence. But again, like I said, really surprising to see how, you know, he did World War One. The World War One scenes were fantastic. Couple of surprises. You know, there was a couple of, scenes in the movie that I was not expecting, little plot twists. But overall, yeah, it was a good movie. Definitely not as good as the first one. You know, for me, it was better than the sequel. So, but you know, I think it's worth watching. Definitely. You've got to power through that first section of the movie where they're setting the scene.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree as well. I would say number one is my favorite, and then this one, and then the third one. The second one I didn't really enjoy the second one, but yeah, I think on maybe a second viewing would elevate this one. Like I said, I think I commend Matthew Vaughn for doing something different. Maybe, you know, maybe he didn't want to just do a continuation of 1 and 2, even though they were both successful. You know, you have to appreciate his efforts, and maybe this will pay off. I mean, I know the 1 and 2 were very successful, but overall, I would recommend this movie to any fans of the series. I think you need to watch 1 and 2 though, because I don't think this works as a standalone. Do you think
You're absolutely right. It doesn't. You've got to see at least the first movie to have any type of context.
Right. So yeah, so to wrap up, I enjoy Matthew Vaughn movies, so I know that eventually I'll come around to liking this one as well. Right now, I'm a little bit. I'm thinking about it. I mean, that's a good thing, you know. Today I spent all day thinking about it, and probably if I think about it more, I will appreciate the. Like I said, every scene was like a comic book panel.
Yeah.
The way that Matthew Vaughn frames a scene, you know, as I described this movie to my wife as pretty people killing pretty people. If you
Great
enjoy
description.
pretty people killing, you're gonna love this movie. So,
Yeah.
if you have anything else to add, John,
No, just, you know, it's definitely worth watching.
Absolutely.
Ralph Fiennes is always excellent in anything that he does. He brings gravitas to every role that he does. You know, Rhys Evans as Rasputin, worth the, you know, worth the cost of a ticket just to see that scene. Tom Hollander doing the roles of the monarchs. Perfect. Yeah. So absolutely. You know, definitely worth going to see. Definitely worth the cost of a movie ticket.
And I think in a page from Marvel and DC, this movie also has a end credit.
Yes, it does.
Credit scene. So don't.
Yes, it does.
And
I really liked
it.
it.
Yeah, don't leave right away.
Don't. And it sets up for some great further sequels in the series. It does.
Well, I appreciate your time, Giancarlo. Thank you for your expertise and your input. And my name is Omar Brito. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.
Talk to you later, Omar. Bye-bye, everyone.